What did she say? We were juggling college debt, careers, and the occasional separation due to Liam and my wife Emily's business trips. Em was preparing for one of those trips, and Liam had just left for the airport to head to his territory on the West Coast. This was our routine. Em and Liam traveled for work, and Sarah and I kept things running smoothly at home. Sarah and I had our own careers. I worked as an accountant, and she was an architect. Our travel was rare and infrequent. Usually, only one of us had a traveling spouse at a time, and when that happened, the other spouse would often visit for dinner or a weekend picnic. After Liam had said his goodbyes and hopped into a cab for the airport, I let the girls chat in the kitchen while I went to the garage. I tidied up my workbench and checked on the security system we had invested in after a series of recent break-ins in our neighborhood. We had cameras and microphones in every room, all feeding into a server in the attic. The data was backed up to our cloud account, capturing everything when the motion sensors were triggered. I could monitor any room from my phone or computer. Out of habit, I checked the system to ensure it was working. How was your last trip? Sarah asked Emily as they sat at the kitchen table. The usual, Emily replied with a giggle. Work, dinner, a few drinks, and then eventually, some sleep. Is it true what they say about people who sneak away from their families on business trips? Sarah asked, clearly worried about Liam. My wife hesitated for a moment before responding, taking a deliberate pause. I wouldn't worry too much, Sally, she said, sipping her drink. Liam always comes back home to you, doesn't he? Yes, but I wonder what he does when he's alone. If he's alone, Sarah said. Sally, trust me, Emily reassured her. He comes home to you. Don't stress over what happens when he's away. What do you mean, Em? Sarah asked, confused. Exactly what I said, Emily replied. What happens outside the house means nothing. I was stunned by Emily's words, which kept echoing in my head. What happens outside the house means nothing. What could she possibly mean by that? Did she really say that? I thought to myself. I couldn't understand why she would dismiss such a serious concern so casually. Emily, what are you saying? Sarah asked, her anxiety palpable. But Emily had grown quieter and more composed. Nothing, Sally, she said cautiously. You're worrying for nothing. Liam loves you. His trips are just business, nothing more. Sarah didn't seem comforted by Emily's words, but she politely let my wife steer the conversation elsewhere. I let them chat for a while before heading back to the kitchen to pour myself a cup of coffee. I needed to clear my head after what I had overheard. After another 40 minutes of small talk, Sarah headed home, and we settled in for the night. I was polite but guarded around Emily. To say her words unsettled me would be an understatement. As she went upstairs to take a shower, my mind raced with thoughts. Had she been unfaithful during her travels? Had she done it repeatedly? Was it a recent occurrence, or had it happened months ago? Her dismissive tone spoke volumes. It wasn't a reflective or regretful admission, just a flat statement of fact, as if she had accepted it as normal. What should I do? What does any man do in this situation? Could I even bring it up with her? Was I ready to throw away 4 years of marriage? We had been talking about starting a family. Did she have affairs during her trips? How could I be certain the child would be mine? Then I thought about her usual destinations, Phoenix, San Diego, Seattle, and Omaha. Did she have different lovers in each city, or just one? Was he more attractive, heavier, or just different in some way? None of these thoughts excited me, they only filled me with disappointment, anxiety, and sadness. The woman I loved seemed to be cheating on me. As much as I hoped I was mistaken, the logical part of me argued otherwise. Emily had inadvertently revealed her infidelity. That night, I didn't sleep with her. She came downstairs to find me, but I pretended to be sound asleep on the couch, face buried in the pillows. She tried to wake me, but I remained unresponsive until she finally gave up. I stayed in that position, unwilling to face her, and eventually fell into a restless sleep until morning. When I started to wake, the smell of coffee and the sound of footsteps in sandals filled the air. I opened one eye and saw a cup of coffee waiting on the table. I remained still, feeling anxious but knowing I couldn't avoid the situation forever. Eventually, I opened my eyes to find Emily standing beside the couch, wearing just sandals and a robe. Her blonde hair draped over her shoulder as she looked at me with a thoughtful expression. I glanced at her briefly before getting up, ignoring the coffee. She gave me a worried look as I walked past her silently. I locked myself in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, and could hear her footsteps lingering outside before they eventually fell silent. We hadn't exchanged a word all morning. I was relieved, as I wasn't ready to talk yet. I wasn't afraid to confront her, but I needed more clarity first. I needed information. That's just how I am. I can't take a single step without knowing exactly what's going on. I grabbed my laptop and settled into the study nook in the corner of our living room. It was a little desk that faced out into the room, allowing me to work while keeping the screen hidden from view. Emily walked back and forth from the bedroom to the kitchen a few times, but she kept her distance from me. The silence between us was infuriating. Why didn't she ask me what was wrong? Was this her way of playing a game? Calming myself, I focused on finding private investigators in the cities where she traveled. I filled out forms and wrote detailed descriptions of what I needed. Using my personal credit card, I hired 4 detective agencies to dig into it. "Are you hungry?" she finally asked around 2 in the afternoon. I wasn't in the mood to eat with her. "No," I replied, pretending to be engrossed in my work. Emily watched me from the kitchen, trying to figure out what was bothering me, but I couldn't bring myself to look back at her. "Maybe we should go out," I said abruptly, standing up and grabbing my wallet, cell phone, and car keys. She looked surprised for a moment, then nodded and grabbed her purse. Her phone, the one she never seemed to put down, was already in her hand, locked with a password. As we headed to the door, I let her go first and took a moment to appreciate her youthful, attractive figure, a figure that, until last night, I had thought was exclusively mine. We usually took my car when we went out, so she slid into the passenger seat, waiting for me to open the door as I always did. Given everything that had happened recently, I was reluctant to do so, but I pushed myself to comply. Whatever happened before she left on Tuesday, I needed to make sure she didn't suspect anything. I worried that I might have already messed things up. "I'm sorry about today," I said. "I think I made a mistake on the project and need to fix it on Monday." "Oh," she said with a sigh of relief, then quickly assumed a concerned expression. "Johnson's project," she asked about a house I had completed 3 weeks ago. Clearly, she wasn't paying much attention during our conversations. "No," I replied. "It's related to a future project. I'll redo the drawings and fix my mistake this week. Everything should be fine. I just hate making errors." "You're being too hard on yourself," she said more calmly after hearing my explanation. "Everyone makes mistakes." I almost wanted to agree with her, but held back. We chatted about trivial matters and bills. Mentally, I was planning how to handle going to bed. There was no way I could get away with falling asleep on the couch again. When we got home, I showered and crawled into bed with my tablet to read. But I found myself staring at the same page for 30 minutes while Emily showered and emerged from the bathroom. She put on her robe, a signal that she was in the mood for sex. As I thought back to the last time we were intimate, I wondered if it was the last time she truly loved me. Lying beside me in her robe, she reached out and put her hand on my thigh, moving closer. "Are you mad at me?" she finally asked. I didn't answer immediately but turned to study her face, searching for any clues. "I found your pills in the bathroom," I said. You're taking them again. She froze at my comment. Yes, I know, she replied. I'm really sorry. I thought we'd wait a few months. I nodded, not wanting to make a fuss. No problem, I said. You're out of your mind. But I didn't express concern, more like irritation. No, I added. I don't want a baby right now either. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it, with you. She was silent for a few seconds, then withdrew her hand as I lay still. After a few minutes, she turned away and switched off the light on her side of the bed. I could hear her breathing and finally let out a quiet sob. It was all too much to bear. I got up, taking the clipboard with me, and walked out of the room. Nathan? I heard her call, but I closed the door and went back to the couch. The next morning, when I woke up, she was already up and dressed. It was 6 o'clock, time for my morning run. She was dressed for work and said, "I made you coffee," but stopped as if she realized I was still upset. "When did you find out about the pills?" she asked. I wanted to say just yesterday but didn't want her to think it was recent. "Last week," I lied, no longer caring that I was lying. "And you didn't tell me? You didn't ask me what I thought?" I said. She began, but I cut her off. "No problem, Em," I replied. "If you don't want a baby with me, then I don't want one." She wanted to respond, but I walked past her. "I'm late," I said. "I need to run." I needed some time alone to clear my head. Running had always helped me focus and regain my composure, from middle school to high school, through the army, and into college. Running had always been my remedy for absent-mindedness and insecurity, whether as a young man or now, as a married man contemplating divorce. In the evening, she came home and cooked dinner. Out of politeness, I sat down and ate with her. I barely touched my plate but made an effort to be courteous. "Can we talk about the baby when I get back from my trip?" she asked. "If you want," I replied. But all I could think about was what she had said to Sarah. "What happens outside the house means nothing." Those words echoed in my mind the next morning as Emily waited for me to wake up. She was dressed for travel, her bag and coat by the door. "Are you going to be okay while I'm gone?" she asked. "I'll survive," I replied. "I always do." "Nathan," she said softly, "I love you." I gave a polite nod, though I could see the pain in my face made her flinch. I thought I heard a sob as she rushed out the door, leaving me to watch her car drive away. That day, I met with a lawyer about divorce proceedings. Since we had no children, the main issue was dividing the property we'd accumulated since our marriage began. However, adultery would impact how the property was divided. We didn't have a prenup, which, in hindsight, was a huge mistake. If the investigators uncovered useful evidence, I might end up with a bigger share. But I knew the lawyers would drag it out to inflate their fees. It was a mess. Sarah had been texting and leaving messages, but I wasn't ready to talk yet. I might visit her later, but she beat me to it and showed up at my work. She was waiting by my car. "Why aren't you answering my calls and texts?" she asked. "I had something on my mind," I answered. "Take me to dinner and then home," she said. "We need to talk." When I reminded her of Emily's comment about what happens outside the house, Sarah looked directly at me. "Where is she today?" Sarah asked. "In San Diego," I replied. "At least, that's what she said." "Did you call her at work?" Sarah asked. "No," I admitted, feeling foolish. "Maybe you should have," she said. "Because I did." I stared at her, taken aback. The following Friday, Emily returned from her trip. She went to work first, then came home. By then, I had already prepared dinner and set the table. "Oh my goodness, honey," she exclaimed when she saw the spread. "You went all out." She ran up to kiss me. It wasn't a passionate kiss, but it was the kind a couple might exchange, even in public. I let her kiss me. It was brief and without any awkwardness. I thought to myself that this kiss and her warm hand on my arm might be the last moments of normalcy we'd share. Liam and Sally are on their way for dinner, I said, checking the stuffed peppers in the oven. Liam and Sally? She asked, surprised. Are they coming tonight? I understood her predicament. I thought you and I. She stopped speaking as I turned and gave her a polite, reassuring smile. I think I'll change and get ready, she said, and headed to the bedroom to change out of her business suit. She'd had her last meeting in Omaha that morning, flown home, and stopped by her office before coming back. Naturally, she planned to shower, eat, and rest after a long and stressful week. I checked my phone one last time. There was a message from Sally, on the road. It had been sent 5 minutes ago. At that moment, the shower upstairs turned off. If everything went according to plan, Emily would be dressed and ready just in time for our guests. They're on their way, I called out to her, but there was no response. I imagined she was dreading seeing them. Emily came downstairs in jeans and a white tank top, with the straps of her pink bra visible underneath. She wore flip-flops, just like we did when we stayed home on vacation. She gave me a nervous smile and placed her hand on my shoulder. "What can I do for you?" she asked. "I have some wine chilling in the fridge," I replied, checking the stuffed peppers. "They'll be ready in 15 minutes. "It smells good," she said. "What's that in the pot?" "Orzo pasta," I answered. She looked sad as she nodded, recognizing the dish from our last anniversary, a meal we had enjoyed after discovering Greek cuisine on a trip to Europe. The memories of those honeymoon days were bittersweet, but this evening had to go on as planned. The table was set for 4, 2 on each side. She glanced at the setup and then pulled a bottle of Zinfandel from the fridge. Before she could ask anything, the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said, leaving her in the kitchen. "Showtime," I whispered to myself as I opened the door. Liam and Sally stood there. Liam looked a bit anxious, but Sally gave me a knowing smile and leaned in to kiss me on the lips, right in front of him. "Hello, stud," she said, pulling away and walking past me. Liam didn't seem surprised by the public display. "Hi, Liam," I said with a smile, though I didn't grin. "Come on in." "Nathan," Liam said as he stepped inside. Sally and Emily were already chatting in the kitchen. For the first time in a long while, I noticed Liam scanning the room, his eyes darting between Sarah, Emily, and me, as if trying to piece something together. "We're having a European-themed dinner," I announced. "Sally will sit with me, and Em will sit with Liam." Liam and Emily exchanged quick glances before turning away as Sally giggled. "I think I like this idea," Sally said. "A European-themed evening from eating to sitting. What else do Europeans do?" She raised an eyebrow, but Liam and Emily didn't respond, settling into their seats beside each other. I could tell they were on edge as Sally kept talking, being her usual self. Inside, I wanted to laugh. "Europeans share a lot more than just seats at the table," I said with a smirk to Sally, who smirked back and then laughed. "They trade spouses or have open marriages." "Interesting," Sally said. "What do you think of that, Liam?" He tensed up. "I wouldn't like it," he replied. My wife flinched for a moment before looking away. "I don't know," Sally said. "Maybe the Europeans have something there." Once again, Emily and Liam exchanged furtive glances, both looking uncomfortable. After serving the food, I poured everyone a glass of wine, not giving Liam and Em a chance to refuse. They would need it soon. As we ate, Sally complimented the meal and praised how well it was prepared. Emily and Liam offered polite agreement, but their anxiety was palpable. It was almost comical, if it wasn't so painful. The realization of what was happening was hitting harder with each passing minute. Only Sally's hand on my thigh, soothing and caring, managed to calm me a little. "It's all the same," Liam said. "Meet the customers, our representatives in the region, then go to the next town and do it all over again." "And you, Em?" Sally asked. "Same as Liam," Emily replied. "We do similar work, just for different companies and clients." By this point, both Emily and Liam were just picking at their food. It was sad, almost laughable. I tried to ignore it and refilled their glasses. When we finished eating, mostly because Emily and Liam had lost their appetites, Sally and I cleared the plates. Emily offered to help, but I stopped her. "You and Liam just got back from your trip. Go sit in the living room, we'll join you in a few minutes." "Okay," she said with a startled look and a forced smile. Despite the tension, Liam seemed to want to say something to his wife, but she headed to the bathroom. I watched them walk into the living room, casting worried glances at each other. They might have been whispering, but I couldn't catch their conversation. I could only imagine their worry. When Sally returned, she and I joined them. "So, you guys aren't interested in an open European marriage?" I asked with a smirk. Sally laughed along with me. Emily and Liam only managed nervous giggles, as if they were trying to play along with a joke. "That's too bad," Sarah added, teasing. "You're such prudes. How about we watch something I found this week?" I suggested. "I think you'll like it." "Is it a chick flick?" Sally asked with feigned enthusiasm. "It has both male and female aspects," I replied, turning on the TV and accessing the file I had saved on my hard drive. The first scene showed sunny street scenes from a coastal city, then panned to a naval base as a car drove north and stopped behind a cab in front of a hotel. Liam hesitated, but Emily recognized the hotel just before the video showed Liam and then her getting out of the cab and entering the hotel hand in hand. By this point, their shock was evident. The camera followed them as they checked in and walked to the elevator with their luggage, holding hands again. As the elevator doors closed, they leaned in for a kiss. "Nathan, can you stop?" Liam said, but Sally interrupted sharply. "Shut up and watch," she commanded, her voice cold. "Both of you." I turned to look at my wife, her face a mix of panic and shame. Her lips quivered as she tried to look away from the screen. The scene changed to the inside of a hotel room, and there were Em and Liam, both naked. She was on her knees. Seeing my wife's tears made me unable to hold back. "Here I thought you were going to cheat with your big buddy," I said. "Fuck you, Nathan," Liam finally spoke up. But he was silenced when Sally slapped him and glared at him fiercely. "And finally," I continued, narrating as if it were a nature documentary. "The cheater lies on the bed, spread out, waiting for the other cheater to enter her with his average-sized penis." The video now showed Liam between my wife's legs. I turned up the volume. "Yes, take me like this," my dear wife said. Liam just grunted. The video sped up to show them later, having caught their second wind before Liam went to the bathroom. "That was good," Liam said. "Does he give it to you that good?" "Sometimes," my wife replied, her mood shifting. "I told you not to mention Nathan when we do this." "Why wouldn't I?" Liam said as he returned. "Bad conscience?" "You're killing the mood," Emily replied. They lay on the bed, and the video continued for almost an hour. They both took a nap. Em was the first to wake up and turned away from Liam. He reached for her, and she didn't resist, letting him roll her onto her stomach with a pillow under her hips. She handed him a tube of lube, which he took. Sally, who had seen the video before, looked at her husband with cold, hard eyes. Liam was angry but resigned to the evidence of his betrayal. My wife stopped watching and sobbed quietly into her hands. The next scene showed Liam moving in and out of my wife's. Shortly after, they fell asleep. The video paused briefly before moving to the next morning. They were seen sleeping together again and then taking a shower before parting ways. They were both in San Diego. At that point, the screen went blank, and I stopped the video. Liam glared at me angrily, while Sally moved closer to sit beside me. "Well," she said, "that was pretty enlightening, wasn't it?" Emily finally looked at me. "How did you find out?" was all she asked. I turned the screen back on, playing a segment from our kitchen last week. "Sally, is it true what they say about people on business trips having affairs?" Emily: "Sally, I wouldn't worry too much. Liam always comes over to your house, doesn't he?" Sally: "Yeah, but I wonder what he does when he's alone. If he's alone." Emily: "Sally, he comes home to you. Don't pay attention to what happens when he's gone." Sally: "What do you mean, Em?" Emily: "Exactly what I said. What happens when people aren't home means nothing." I replayed that last sentence 3 times for them. "That's what happened, Em," I said. "That's what gave you away. It made me think you were cheating on me. I didn't know with whom, but then I figured it out." Sally interjected, "I already had my suspicions. The way you two always seem to cross paths on your trips, the way you sometimes avoided each other in conversation. It was funny how tonight you both looked so guilty, constantly checking each other out. You were pathetic. I hired investigators in all 4 cities you traveled to," I continued. Emily wrinkled her nose, shaking her head as she began to sob again, bracing herself for what was next. The video cut to Emily with another man in a bar, then walking toward a hotel room while grabbing his ass. Inside the room, she performed similar acts with this man, kneeling, sucking, and then taking him from behind. "You bitch," Liam shouted. "You cheated on me." Sally and I laughed as we watched his outburst and the desperation on my wife's face. They stared at each other and then back at us. But I wasn't done. "Wait," I said, "that's not all." I continued the video. Liam was in a room in Las Vegas with a slender, muscular black woman. Liam seemed to have developed a particular fixation, engaging in acts with her, including taking her in the ass. The woman commented, "My husband never does that to me." "Glad I could help," Liam replied, entering the bathroom and hearing the woman clean herself up. Unable to contain myself, I clapped my hands. Emily shook her head in disgust. "That's adorable," Sally said. "Cheaters cheating on each other. Priceless footage." The room fell silent, everyone lost in their own thoughts. Emily was the first to break the silence. "Nathan," she said, her voice trembling, "where does that leave us?" I looked at her seriously. "You know," I said to both of them, "Sally and I have had a few days to come to an agreement and talk things over. We're both agreeable people. In fact, neither of us are prudes. If either of you had brought up the possibility of an open relationship, we might have agreed. I even considered asking you, Em. But you chose a different path, didn't you? You could have asked me openly and honestly so we could have made that decision together. Instead, you chose to lie and betray me. You betrayed us. How do I forgive that?" I continued. "How do I move past the fact that you went behind my back, thinking you had the right to do whatever you wanted when you were traveling? And not just when traveling, how long before you started doing it here? I bet you've already done it, haven't you?" Sally added, "I was told at his work that your dear wife has taken him out to lunch a few times." Emily turned away, and Liam followed suit. "So what do you want?" Liam finally asked. "Well," said Sally, "it looks like we have everything we need from both of you. Neither of us has children, so all we need to do is divide our assets. And since adultery can be used in court in Texas, you're both pretty much screwed, literally." "Give me your cell phones," I said. "Open them up." Emily flinched but handed over her unlocked phone. Liam hesitated, but Sally grabbed his phone from him. "It's not locked," she said, holding it out to me. "Give me a minute. I'll check his cloud account." While Sally checked Liam's cloud, I went through Emily's phone. I found pictures of Liam and other men, and a couple of explicit videos. I shook my head as I glanced through them, commenting, "So this is how it's going to go down. I'll never be able to trust again. Too many lies for too long." Sally ended the call and looked at them both. "You both work for companies that have standards of morality. Have you forgotten that? Your bosses and their legal departments would be very disappointed in your antics. One of them is a skirt chaser himself, but his company had to pay for one of his indiscretions. Now he lets his HR and legal departments go after those who break the rules. That must be your boss, Liam." "Shit," Liam muttered, his face a mix of anger and realization. "That's what got you in trouble," Sally snapped, her voice cold. "I've given you everything you've ever asked for. I let you have me however you wanted. And you had the nerve to stab me in the back, Liam. It's over between us." "Not quite yet," I said, leaning back in my chair with a grim smile. "What do you mean?" Liam asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "Well," I began, "here's the deal. We're moving forward with the divorces. You'll both be signing papers that will give us 70% of the assets. If you decide to fight us, those videotapes of your little escapades will be sent to your families, friends, and employers." "Nathan," Emily pleaded, her voice cracking as she looked at me, "please don't do this. Can't we work something out?" "Really, Em?" I said with a bitter grin. "If you saw a video of me with Sally while you were still with Liam, would you be asking for a chance to fix things?" "Just give me a chance," she begged. "I did, Em," I said sharply. "We had our issues before you left on your trip, and you decided to cheat anyway. You started taking those pills without discussing it with me. We're married. We agreed to make decisions together. You betrayed my trust before you even slept with him and anyone else. You lost respect for me, and that made it easier for you to act out. I just want to understand why," I said. Emily looked down, then back at me. "Before you, I had no experience with other men. My one experience was quick and unsatisfying. I wanted to explore, see what else was out there. It wasn't about love, it was just about sex. That's all I wanted." I shook my head, disappointed. "You should have thought about that before marrying me. People explore those desires before they get married, not after. Marriage is more than a commitment, it's a partnership, a contract between two people. It's about exclusivity and facing the world together. You should have discussed your desires with me. We could have worked something out, but you chose to deceive me." Emily looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "I wanted to have some fun before the wedding, but then I didn't want to risk losing you. Things were so good at first, but over the last year, I started wondering about other men. It wasn't about love, just sex. I'm disappointed, Em," I said. "All you had to do was talk to me. We could have found a way to explore together, but you went behind my back and violated our trust. That's unforgivable." Sally nodded in agreement. "And that goes for you too, Liam. Especially after our discussions." I turned to Sally in surprise as Liam turned away, and Emily looked at Sally and Liam with shock. "Did you do that?" she asked. "What did he say?" "The bastard told me he'd never share me with Nathan and would leave me if I brought it up or if he found out," Sally said. "Can you believe that?" Emily shook her head in disbelief, then turned to Liam and punched him. He tried to protect himself from the blows. "You stupid bastard," she said. "When we started, I said we had to bring them in, didn't I? But you said they'd never leave us and it wasn't worth it. I listened to you, and look where we are now." "You turned into a cheater yourself, Em," Liam retorted. And after me, you started sleeping with others. Don't act like you're innocent. I remember our first kiss last Christmas, Liam said bitterly. You let me kiss you while Sally was in the bathroom and Nathan was outside. It didn't take long for us to end up in bed together. Less than a week, actually. I thought back to that night, a holiday gathering with our closest friends. While my wife and I were out of sight, Liam and Emily shared a kiss. Anger flared within me. I fucking hate you, Emily spat. Mutual feelings, I assure you, Liam replied. Sally and I watched them argue with increasing contempt. The scene felt hopeless. Too many lies and betrayals had shattered any chance of reconciliation. If we had children or were older, I might have considered it. But we were young, and there were no children to bind us. I was ready to leave. The doorbell rang again. Sally answered it and returned with a woman holding 2 bags and a smartphone. Amelia Harper Stone, she asked. Emily, her face a mask of despair, nodded. You've been served, the woman said, handing over an envelope and snapping a photo of Emily. Liam Donovan, she asked. Liam, defeated, nodded. You've been served, she said. Emily was openly sobbing, clutching the papers. Sally turned to me, shrugged, and then faced Liam. It's over. Go home, pack your stuff, and leave. I never want to see you again. If you speak out, the video goes to your family, your job, and everyone you know. Understand? Emily didn't move, but then did something I hadn't anticipated. She dropped to her knees and crawled over to Sally and me. I'm begging you, she sobbed. Please forgive me and give me another chance. I know I messed up. It's all my fault. Do whatever you want to me, Emily begged, her voice choked with desperation. Just don't throw me out on the street, Nathan. Please, Sally, talk to him. I'm begging you both. Emily looked into my eyes with a pleading expression. I knew this was a defining moment for me as a man. Yes, I still loved her, despite the deep betrayal. But her actions were unforgivable. The thought of throwing her out immediately felt wrong, yet I knew I could never trust her again. Sally is moving in here, into my bedroom, I said firmly, meeting her gaze. I saw Emily flinch at the words. I understand, Sally said, suppressing a sob. I deserve this. I need to talk to her about you. With that, Liam left, and Sally returned. What are you going to do with her? She asked. You know she can't be trusted, right? I know, I said. I'm not going to. Emily looked at both of us, her face a mask of despair. Please, she whispered. Shut up, Sally said, pushing her back down to the floor. Emily lay there for a moment before getting back on her knees. Nathan, please don't divorce me, Emily begged. Emily, that ship has sailed, I replied, looking down at her. We're getting a divorce. But there will be a legal separation for 3 months. You have that long to prove you're worth saving. In the meantime, I'll be living with Sally, and she'll be in what used to be your bedroom. Do you understand? What do you want me to do, Nathan? She asked, her voice resigned. For one thing, I said, you need to beg Sally to give you a chance. If she says no, you're finished. Emily nodded and began to stand, but I stopped her. Get on your knees, Em, I said. Go to her on your knees and beg her to give you a chance to make things right. Emily crawled over to Sally, who stood there with her elegant, slim figure and high, firm breasts. I had enjoyed Sally immensely the past few nights and planned to continue. I'm so sorry, Emily said to Sally. Bullshit, Sally replied. You're just sorry you got caught. I know it looks that way, Emily said, but, no buts, Sally cut her off. You betrayed my trust, just like you betrayed your husband's. You both deserve each other. If it were up to me, I'd kick you out right now. But this isn't my house, and soon it won't be your home. My advice is to find a cheap motel for the night or the weekend, and then look for an apartment. You need time to reflect on what you've done. Emily turned to me, searching for any sign of mercy, but I remained resolute. Get your stuff and go, Emily, I said. Pack enough for a week, and we'll discuss how you'll retrieve the rest later. She nodded, her face a mixture of resignation and sadness, and slowly made her way to the bedroom. 40 minutes later, she emerged with 2 suitcases, a travel bag, a laptop bag, and a purse. Sally and I watched as she loaded her belongings into her car. As she stopped for a final look, she reached out to me, but I pulled away. She sobbed as she drove off, and Sally leaned toward me. It went better than I expected, she said. They brought this on themselves, I added as we watched Emily's car disappear into the distance. Every spouse has the opportunity to cheat, but not all of them do. It's ironic, Sally said as we walked back inside. Some people think they have an open marriage but forget to tell their partner. As Sally undressed, she pulled off my pants and boxers. I felt her hand grip my now hard member, which had belonged to Emily until recently. Do you want an open relationship? She asked. It feels too much like dating other people, I replied. Do you need that? Sally asked. I just need a change now and then, I said. It's been a while since I've had some variety. Then maybe we'll need another girl from time to time, Sally said, her breath quickening. Deal? Deal, I agreed, and she panted with anticipation. Now, take me. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Sally and I received the 70% of the assets I had asked for. Sally sold her house, and I took out a loan to pay Emily her 30% share of the house. In one day in court, all financial and legal issues were resolved, but not Emily's pain and guilt. She lost everything except her job. Her parents eventually found out when she started preparing for the worst, but I never sent them any videos or pictures out of spite. Liam disappeared after his divorce from Sally was final. He had enough money to buy his freedom, but his last words to Sally were that he would be in touch. It's been 2 years now, and we haven't heard from him. Emily continues to work and travel. What she does no longer bothers me. The other day, Sally and I were at a coffee shop when Emily walked by, absorbed in her phone. Sally and I live together, but we both still shy away from serious commitments. It's been a year since my divorce, and my memories of Emily are fading. Sally and I talk about traveling the world, though the pandemic from Wuhan, China has derailed our plans to visit far-off places. So, for now, we're just enjoying our vacation, running, walking, and having sex like rabbits. But I'm still scared. So is Sally. Who wouldn't be after everything we've been through? Recently, I received an email from Emily. Hi Nathan, I hope you're well. I'm trying to live my new life, but honestly, it's not easy. I miss our time together. I miss you and us. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did to you, to me, and to us. I blew it, thinking I deserved everything I wanted, no matter what. In my pursuit of sexual experimentation and self-indulgence, I hurt the man I loved and lost my marriage. I also contributed to the downfall of Sally and Liam's marriage. It would be easy to blame Liam, but we all know that's not true. Everything I did was willingly chosen. I owe you an apology, Nathan, not just for ruining our marriage, but for losing respect for you. Before that, I lost respect for myself. I convinced myself I deserved pleasure without considering the consequences. Now, I have a new experience to add to my life: divorce. It's neither appealing nor satisfying. It tore me apart. I hear you and Sally are still together. I wish you both happiness, though to say I'm not jealous would be a lie. Take care of yourselves. Your unfortunately ex-wife, Emily. P.S. 2 things, being alone sucks. What happens outside means a lot.